What do you think your legacy is with the association?
Well, part of me, I don't want to answer that question because I don't want to think of myself as having a legacy yet. I'm still in my mid 40s. I think I can still say mid in that context, and I feel like I still got a lot to give, and I'd like to think that maybe 20 years from now I'll have a different feeling about what my legacy is.
Yeah.
But I guess I don't want to take any individual credit for anything the association has accomplished. Everything that I'm proud of that was done during any time I served on the board was done in a context of a lot of very active, energetic, passionate people. And I guess I think our most productive period was from around 2002 to 2007 or 8 maybe is what I think of as sort of the highlight of it all. And we had people, Noah Fritz was president for a while during that. He had Susan Smith, who nobody ever accused of not having enough energy. Jerry Tallman, Carolyn Cassidy, Kim Hathaway was treasurer for a while, then Samantha Gwynn. Mary Garand was our first training director. Jim Mallard was on the website for almost 15 years, starting in that period. And that was the period in which the association really started to do something more than just have its annual conference. And that's not a criticism of the past board. I mean, they spent over a decade just getting the association up and running, and then, of course, adapting immediately to the internet era, which started only a couple of years after the IACA was founded. So I remember my first conference in Milwaukee. Mark Stalla was president, and he put the conference bill on his credit card.
Yeah, he talked about that.
Did he? I didn't know if he was going to be paid back for it. I mean, that's what they had to deal with. So that they did the best they could in the formative era. And I think that the board that I was part of, we can take credit for kicking it up a notch and maybe setting an expectation for more stuff. We came out with the book, we introduced the training series, we introduced a website with a lot more resources, we introduced webinars, I want to say 3 or 4 other, certification, of course, the certification program. So all of that happened during the period that I was vice president of administration and then president. And I think that right now, that's what I would say is my legacy, that I participated with that group of people in a series of projects that are now just a permanent part of the association, basically. They didn't all go, the way that I hoped that they would go, and there are things that I would like to see differently. But I think we have a lot to be proud of in what we accomplished and how we kicked it into the next level. And I just think that there's a place to do that again now with the current board.
I was just thinking, you said you still have some time left. You could go for the career Grand Slam. You could get secretary and treasurer and then hold every position on the executive board. You could do that.
There was actually a time that was my plan, I think. But to be honest, I don't think you should run for a position just for that reason. And if I ever ran for treasurer, I think it would just be for that reason, to have that complete, that be the only person that ever served in all the positions. I've never envied the treasurer of the association. That person has way too much to do. To ask, I mean, we're a $500,000 a year association these days, and to ask somebody to manage that as a volunteer is a little bit crazy. I know they've got some bookkeeping support, but it's still pretty crazy. And we're taking people who historically the person in that position hasn't necessarily had any experience in particular being a treasurer, and given the amount of money that we're handling, that's just a little bit nuts. I'll tell you something, while we're talking about the association and opinions, I think the worst thing the IACA ever did the entire time that I was involved in terms of making an efficient, effective organization, the worst thing they ever did was pass a series of bylaw amendments, I think back in 2014, one of which staggered the election of the board members, so that instead of having the whole board elected in 1 year and then served together for 3 years, there's always somebody coming on and going off. And I understand the reasoning behind the people that advocated for that, to some sort of sense of continuity and so forth, but we never lacked for that anyway. And the fact is, the board is so much more effective when they see themselves as a unit and when they have a chance to work together for a dedicated period of time. This current system of somebody always coming and going means that you're always training somebody, you're always getting somebody up to speed. You don't have like a shared vision anymore of what the association is supposed to accomplish. And I feel like the 4 years that I was vice president of membership just recently, ending in December last year, I was just treading water the entire time. We never got together and talked about strategic plans, about long-term goals, about vision, because we were always inaugurating a new board member. So if I would love to see the association go back to the old way of electing the whole board all together at once and letting that board develop their own vision collectively for the association together.
Yeah, I remember it going to the conferences, and it was like it was the entire class that was elected, and they announced
Yeah.
it during the week of the conference. So I remember the picture being taken of all the members that just got elected and
Yeah, right.
having that be the cohort to move forward.
Yeah, and I think it was better. I don't have an opinion about whether it has to happen, before the conference. I think there's kind of a neat thing that we do now, where people can come to the conference and then meet the candidates for the office and then vote, afterwards. So there's some benefit to that too. But definitely getting everybody together on at once, a major event. And I was president for 2 terms, and I knew that I had this board to work with for the next 3 years. And so you were reluctant to do something like, all right, well, I'm not getting along with this person, but I can just wait them out. I'll just I'll just wait until they leave, and hopefully I'll get along with the next person. You couldn't do that. You had to find a way to work with them, and I just think it was so much more productive. It was a better experience for me as a board member. I never felt that I had the same connection, the same closeness with the people I served on more recently, just because they were always leaving.